Hello, everybody. My name is Arne Ragason, and today I'm going to talk about 3 ways to increase construction profits. In the first part of our tech talk, we're going to briefly go over what project data is and give you an understanding of that. Next, we'll detail 3 ways you can use that project data to increase profits. And then we'll go into a short demonstration of ProjectWise Construction Management to show you how you can use the system to increase your profits. And finally, we'll have a few minutes for any questions that may arise during the presentation. So to start, what is project data? Project data comes in many forms and is literally all around you. Everything that happens in the project in terms of scope, communications, and costs should be tracked and kept, because when you have all that project data, you can do so much with it. I'm going to go into each one of these categories and talk a little bit about those. So first, the scope of the project is the data that we use to outline the project and the responsibilities of each participant in that project. Those can be drawings, specifications, or any contractual documents detailing what needs to be done and who needs to do that and when they need to deliver that particular deliverable. Communications are anything that flows back and forth between any project participants. And you really need to track this properly, because if you're not tracking communications, you're going to run into serious problems later if you have a claim situation or anything like that. And communications can really include anything that goes back and forth. RFIs and submittals, memos and emails and meeting minutes, as well as any daily reports that can include weather information, as well as any photographs of the site. So really anything that needs to be communicated has to be tracked in your project management system. Finally, we're going to look at costs, and really anything that affects the bottom line of the project should be tracked. And this can include the contracts, change orders, timesheets and labor, as well as any invoices or pay applications coming in from the contractor. So now that we have an idea of what project data is, we can start thinking about how we can increase the profits by leveraging this data. So we're going to organize this into 3 categories. First, we're going to look at how we can reduce project management costs. Second is defending against claims. And third is winning repeat business. So starting with the first one, we can put a few points in here. The first is to minimize delays. So if you have bullet court history, you have automated alerts and audit trail, you can keep stalled communications from causing delays. And by using a construction management system with an automated history, you can easily see how your team is performing and who is holding up the flow of communications. You also want to make sure that you are minimizing the time that your staff is working on the project. And by setting up automated construction communications for processes such as RFI reviews, submittals, you can save hundreds of work hours. On a recent project in Guam, GHD estimated that their construction management system saved them approximately 800 hours just in managing RFIs and submittals within that system. You can also reduce cost by going paperless. And in that same project, GHD was able to cut the use of hard copies by 99%, which eliminates the need to print tens of thousands of pages. And this saves a lot of admin work because you don't need people to print, file, mail, paper-based records and communication. You just do that here online electronically within the system, and all of that is tracked automatically. You can also reduce costs by mitigating risk items. And the better visibility you have into these specific risk items, the better your ability is to mitigate them with minimal impact on your bottom line. So having a construction management system that tracks risk items and provides visibility into financial exposure, you're going to help your project stay in the black. The second way to increase construction profits is to avoid claims. And the best way to avoid these claims is to keep a complete record of what happened in the project. And by using the project management system with an automated history and audit trail, you can use that data to verify and dispute claims that arise. And if the project runs into any trouble, having a complete record of all project documents, communications, and the actions of all project participants is incredibly valuable. On the same project that I mentioned earlier, GHD had a request from the contractor for a total of 202 days based on weather delays. Well, GHD was tracking the weather data automatically in the system, and they were able to negotiate the time extension to 107 days, cutting that in half just by leveraging the data that they had. And this was amicably accepted by both the contractor and the owner. The third way to increase your construction profits is to win repeat business. And you can do that by improving communications, and not only with the owner and the stakeholder, but also other project participants. So contractors and subcontractors, getting first-hand information from those is going to be extremely valuable. And you can use that to get new deliverables and value-added services to the owner of the project. You can provide them with a complete archive of all the project data that they can use for ongoing operations. And you can also use that to manage warranty after turnover. So now we've established some ways for you to increase construction projects. You can do that by lowering project management costs, you can avoid claims, and you can win repeat business. And now I'm going to go into ProjectWise Construction Management, and I'm going to illustrate some of these points. So here we are on the dashboard, and really on this dashboard I can see all the different project data. So I can see all my communications, so anything that I'm doing with external parties or internally, I can see all of that information. So here in my inbox, any documents that are due, I can keep track of that. I can also keep track of any costs, budgets, my risks, any pay applications coming in. I can track the schedule, so I can really track anything that's happening in the project. And then if I want to see the scope, I can set up reports that link to all the civil drawings or all types of drawings or really anything that I want. And I can customize this dashboard to show exactly what it is that I need to see. So perhaps not everyone on the project needs to be involved in the financial part of it, so they just don't see it on their dashboard. And by creating links here to reports, I can actually drill down into the details. So I can click on here the submittal report, and I can take a look at all the submittals that are in my project. I can see what is their status, who submitted them, when they were submitted, how long they've been outstanding, what is their approval status, and for the ones that are still open and still pending, I can see who they are pending on. So I can see who has ball in court, who is keeping flow of communication, who is stopping all of that. And this can be either individual users or organizations within that project. So really anyone that is involved in the project can have documents pending on them. And then if I want to get more details, I can just click on the item, and I'm redirected here into the work module to see this particular submittal. So this particular submittal has links to locations, it has links to assets, as well as drawings and specifications in the system, and then attachments. So not only do I have all my project data in here, I can also link that together. So in a claim situation or in times where you just need to understand the project a little bit better, it's extremely valuable to see how all the communications and all the documents are linked to each other. So you can have that relationship here within the system. So all of that is kept here, and it's also kept in the archive. So in the handover archive after project completion, all of these links are going to be active. So you can easily go back and forth and see information long after the project is completed. You can save staff hours by managing this electronically. So instead of getting the submittals in the mail or in email and forwarding that on to whoever needs to see it and have them come back and say, oh, I never saw that, or oh, I didn't get that email. You can do that here. So you can do all of that in here instead of managing that manually. And you can set up review teams, you can set up certain responsibilities and workflows really however you want. And the system is quite flexible when it comes to setting up workflows that suit your business requirements. And with everything in the system, you can also track the history. So I mentioned the history a little bit, and every document has it. So on every document, I can see who creates it, who uploads files, who modifies it, when it was submitted. So the time, if you have a set time in your contract that you need to have 14 or 21 days to review submittals, that time starts ticking when they submit it. So if they forget to submit it, then that's on them. You still have those 14 days. But it also tracks more information than just who creates it. It also tracks who forwards it, who approves it, and even who reads it. So everything that has ever happened to this document is logged here, and you have all of that information available to you. And after the project is completed, you have that same information available as well. We can also track really any other construction form. So in this case, I'm looking at an RFI, but that could be any form that you're using. So if you're using any specific forms with any specific data that you need to capture, we can easily arrange that and configure the system to suit your needs. So here I'm tracking an RFI. The RFI also has links to a drawing and a specification. So we know what that RFI is referencing. It has some files. We can see photos. We could upload videos or marked up drawings, really whatever it is that you want to track. And then we can start responding to it. So we can respond to it. We can have a closed loop review, or we can have private conversations with the geotechnical engineers or really whoever needs to be involved. And then whatever it is that we need to share, we can share that on by merging together different responses, excluding information that shouldn't be shared, and share that onto the contractor. So we have all of this information built into the system, but still we have the permission control to keep things private that should not escape our organization. You can also track risk on each document. So here I have linked a risk item to my RFI. And on this risk item, I can say, well, I estimate the delay, estimate the dollars, and then the probability of this happening. And then I can make some notes. So if I click on it right here, I can be redirected into the finance module here under the risk tab. And that shows me who creates it, when it was updated, what are the details about it. And then here with the information, I can see how this has evolved. So I can see the evolution of this particular risk item. So it started out pretty high, but it has gone a little bit lower, but the probability has gone up since we first started it. So we can keep track of all of that as well. You can link it to documents. You can link the same risk item to multiple documents. So here I have the same risk item that's linked to the RFI. It's also linked to the proposed change order and a change order, as well as the schedule of values. And by linking that to the different documents, you will get a relationship that allows you to expand and go deeper into what it is that started it and where did it end up. So all that information is available here in the system. If I click on the summary here, I can see the summary of my risk. So here I am looking at the risk on a program level. So if I'm managing a large program with multiple projects for an owner, I can see all my risk on all of these projects. But I can also drill down deeper. So I can drill down into the individual project as well as just the individual contract. So I can see anything that has to do with the contractor contract right here, and I can see everything, every risk that is associated with it. So I can see how much is the delay, what is the amount, and these are the worst case scenarios. And then based on the probability, we can do some calculations to show us what is the expected value. So the system tracks all that information for you. And once you have mitigated the risk, you can close it out, but the risk is still going to be visible in the system in a way that it's not going to show up in your risk register, but you can still always access it so you can know what could have caused a problem in the project. So speaking of relationships, as I've been mentioning quite a lot, I wanted to show you here, under the reports, I have a relationship report. So here is a change order, and this is the change order that was linked to the risk item. And I can see exactly how that change order started. So here we have RFI number 17, which is the one we were looking at. It led to a proposed change order, which led to a change order. And then I can even see links to the daily logs when this work was being performed, as well as the pay applications when the contractor is submitting a payment request for this. So I can track all of the steps of this particular change order. And these links are all active. So I can click on the daily log request and I can see what was happening on site that particular day. And these daily logs can include really any information that you need to capture. So you can capture here safety, visitors, and environmental. We can automatically capture the weather. So just as we were talking about earlier with GHD, where they were able to use the weather data to their benefit because they were tracking that automatically in their daily inspection reports. So they could come back to the contractor and say, well, the weather was not as bad as you claim it was. So we have all that data. And that data is stored here in the system, so you can easily go back and find it. You can also include any files, photos, videos, whatever it is that you need to track on your daily inspection reports, as well as any activities. So if you want to track what the contractor was doing that particular day, you can easily do that. So if I click here on the excavation, I can see not only how much he was doing in terms of the schedule values, but I can also see what were the crafts and the equipment that was on site today. So you can go back and see that, and you can run reports to show any of this over a period of time. We've shown you how you can manage all your project data in the same system and use that to increase your construction profits. And you can increase your construction profits by reducing the project management overhead. And that can be both due to automated workflows and just less admin time. You can avoid claims, and that is mostly because you have better information. So you have all the information that's relevant to the project, so you can go back and see all of the information that you need. And then you can use this system to win repeat business, because when you have a complete system that keeps track of all of the information and you're able to deliver that to the owner, that is extremely valuable to the owner, and they're going to be extremely happy and you're going to win more business. So that's the end of my presentation, and I thank you all for joining, and I hope you learned something. And I'm going to turn it over to Natalie for a short poll before we move on to the Q&A section.
Thank you for everyone's responses. And back over to Stephen and Arnar for Q&A.
Hello. Yes, we have a few questions for Arnar. The first is, can you access the detailed project history after the completion of the project?
Yes. So all of the complete audit trail and the complete communication history is going to be available in the archive. And the archive it's an offline archive that is just based on a typical Windows file structure. It includes PDFs as well as XML if they want to parse it into their document management system, and includes the complete history, all the documents, all their attachment in their original form, as well as any relationships. So all of the information that was created during the project is going to be available in the archive as well.
Okay, thank you. Here is a follow-on to that. So it says, are older versions of documents available in the system as well?
Yes, they are. So if I look at, for example, at the submittal that I was looking at earlier, that one is a new version of, it's revision number 2 of this particular submittal. And I can go back. So it gives me links to the first revision and the original. And you can see that it very clearly tells us that this is an old version. So there's no confusion in the system about what is the most up-to-date version of this particular document. So yes, you can track revisions and see all of the previous versions of that document.
Thank you. Next question is, when a project is complete, can the data in the project history be edited?
No, so all of the output of the system is in PDF format, and if there are any changes made to it, that is going to be tracked in the PDF itself. So we know it's clear if that document has been edited.
Okay. Thank you. Next question is about risk tracking. How can you control who sees risk items?
So a risk item, when it's created, it is only visible to the organization that creates it. So if I'm the construction management firm, or within that firm, then I will see that risk, but nobody outside my organization is going to see it. If I want to control it inside my organization, that's simple, because here I go into the users and I can just look at the permissions and I can take away certain permissions that allow them to see the risk. So users within my organization, I can block them from seeing the risk as well.
We have questions about reporting. First is, can you report on the linked relationships in the system?
Yes. So that's what we saw with the relationship report. So the relationship report shows us how these documents are connected to each other. So the RFIs or the change order here starting, and then all the links before that we can see. So for example, the RFI we were looking at, we can see the drawing that are linked to. We can also see the specification, and then any meeting minutes, or really whenever this particular document was referenced or mentioned, we can keep track of that. So that's one way to do it. You can also run customized reports similar to the submittal report if you want to see a list of all documents that are related to a certain document, certain asset, or a certain location. So you can easily run those reports.
Okay, and then the last question we have, it sounds like you kind of just touched upon it, but it's can you make customized reports using the data in the system?
Yeah, absolutely. So here under the report module, I can run reports. So if I go into a report that I have here, I want to see all the submittals, and you can see that here I have run showing all the submittals from really anybody. We've got 26 submittals coming in, but what if I only want to see submittals coming from the contractor? Well, I can either edit it and track that, or I can create a new one from scratch. So let me just edit this one, and the report builder is going to allow us to pick what type of document I want to see, really anything that is created here, and then I can just pick. So let's say I just want to see what's from the contractor, and let's save it. And once I run that report, it should show me only submittals coming from the contractor. So I ticked just the submittal box and not anything else. And now I should be able to run this report, and it shows me here 13 results, everything that is from the contractor and nothing else. So you can run these custom reports and see all that information. And you can also export this. So if you want to export this to a spreadsheet, then you can easily do that. And the columns that you see here are not the only columns that are available. You can pick and choose columns as well. So if there is specific information captured, then you can report on that as well.
Okay, we have one final question, I think, and I think we have time to get to it. It says, can you show how alerts can be configured for project participants?
Yes. So I did mention the alerts, but I didn't really go into them in detail. So alerts are something that we can create to set reminders to people. So in this case, I have an RFI alert. It is based on the RFI process, and I say, well, when I receive an RFI, I can pick the priority. I want to be notified 2 working days before it is due. I want to get an email to these people. So you can say, well, I need to get it to the entire organization and just notify them by email, or you can pick individual users. So you can say, well, Arnar really needs to be notified about this. So any user that you pick is going to get emailed about this. And these alerts can be either based on documents that are already created in the system and need to be reviewed, or they can be based on a submittal master list. So if you have a master list of all the submittals in your project, you can create alerts to notify the contractor that this particular submittal needs to be submitted before this due date. So the submittal master list is going to be able to capture what document it is, what needs to be submitted, and when that needs to be submitted, as well as who is responsible for it. So that information is all tracked, and you can create alerts to make sure that they know about that as well.
Great. Okay, that's all our questions. We're ready to turn it over back to Natalie.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Stephen, and thank you, Arnar. And thank you for a great presentation today. A big thank you, of course, to all of you for your questions and participation. You'll find the link to today's presentation on our YouTube channel and in the follow-up email. Thanks again, everyone. Have a wonderful day.